Welcome to BLOGZ on Balls. It's Masters Week. Sean, how's that for a start, huh? The soft, ebony and ivory of the Masters tune. This song is as old as I am.
This song is as old as you are.
This was first used back for the Masters in 1981, the year I was born. I don't know what the song's called, I just typed in Masters theme tune. So,
the leaderboard and the flowers already.
The azaleas, the babbling brooks, the patrons, the green, the forestry. Oh, it's Masters Week. It is the greatest tournament in golf. And as you can tell by the upward inflection of the orchestra right now, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to most of the golfers around the world. And it is predominantly the theme of today's show. Welcome back to BLOGZ on Balls. We took a little break last week, much like Stephen Kitsoff from the Stormers. Only difference is that Sean and I are neither of our gingers, but we're back with lots and lots of sport. Sean, how was your week off? What'd you get up to?
I went down to Cape Town for a little bit. I got to see the away game, the Crusaders and the Stormers for a little bit.
Oh, right.
I got to see that hostile environment.
Did you get involved in a fight?
I did not get involved in a fight. I had to restrain myself, but I didn't have to get involved.
Well then, Sean, you're no longer a statistic in my eyes. Very good.
No, it was a nice trip. Enjoyed my Easter. It was very nice.
Okay,
what
very
did you
good.
get up to?
Sean, I stayed here. I watched a lot of schoolboy rugby. My particular team, Weinberg, did very well, even though they did play against a bunch of pansies. So it was nice, eh? Got to spend some quality time with some quality individuals, and yeah, I watched a bit of sport. Needless to say, I feel particularly refreshed and ready for a great show this week. Like I said, Masters Week is pretty much going to be the big thing about today's show. We've got Barry Harvingar from Golf Digest, the assistant editor of Golf Digest, otherwise known at Loose Impediment on Twitter. He's going to come in with a whole bunch of amazing Masters trivia, facts, stories, tips, predictions. Basically, it's going to be 10 minutes of Masters like you've never heard it before. We've also got Keegan joining us with a football, huge week of football. Again, after yesterday's match, Man City beating Man United. I think we got a lot of attention around that. And as usual, Sport Billy comes back and he's going to talk to us about a bunch of knobs in SA Sport. And also our discussion, which we're going to keep a mystery until the second hour. Sean, that is mostly because I have not prepped it. Anyway, let's get into the show. We've got Mid-Tempo Tunes Tuesday coming up. We're going to start that off with Tim Deluxe, Story of You and Me. Giving the show off to a smooth start today. Mid-Tempo Tunes Tuesday. You listen to BLOGZ on Balls. It is Masters Week, and just off air, Sean and I are having a bit of a laugh. We were talking about how Gary Player didn't get the design job for the Olympic course in Brazil, and how he was quite he was stating that there's politics involved, and it wasn't right. And people say a sense of entitlement. I think screw those guys. How do you give it to someone who isn't the ambassador of golf? That's his actual title.
Who have they given it to?
I don't know.
It's like just some. Well, it's not Gary Player.
I stopped reading when I realized it wasn't GP.
It's a farce. It's a farce. Everyone boycott the IOC golf.
Yeah. Well, now they're talking about sports again. Which one should be in, which one should be out. But look, we'll get into that some other time.
Yeah, for sure.
Shall we get into our headlines? Not a whole lot this week. So I get my computer across here. As it is Masters Week, we're going to open up with Martin Laird winning the Texas Open, and he shot a 63, I think, in the final round. The interesting part about that story is not that you know who Martin Laird is, nor will you actually care to, but Rory McIlroy finished 2 back in second place. So it's an ominous sign.
Yeah. Is the course going to have any indication for the Masters? Is there any similarity to it?
Well, there is nothing like Augusta, Sean. I think if you go onto my site at any stage this week, you'll see a blog post about
I've read it all this
the Masters
week.
top to bottom.
I've read some wild facts and figures about Augusta. There's been a lot of Augusta love on the bounce this week.
Yeah, the thing about Augusta is that it's just such a different course, and then the pressure, and then the greens, and this moment, and like the occasion that you're in. So it's very difficult to have a form guide going in. If the guy shoots 63 at the Valero Texas Open, he might shoot 87 at the Masters.
Right.
That's pretty much how it goes. But Rory does have a bit of form. He does like that course. Of course, we're going to get Barry Harvingar from Golf Digest in about 11:15 onwards, and he'll tell us exactly who the favourites are and why the course is set up for certain guys. You've got to hit a bit of a draw, as in right to left.
Yes.
Inside out swing path,
I know my stuff.
Okay. Next up, Marties get completely crushed by the Bulls Academy side.
Holy smoke, that was
otherwise known as Tooks.
That is an irritating statement in itself, isn't it? But that was an absolute hiding. 44-5. Yeah. It was in Stellenbosch as well.
In Stellenbosch, after Marties did beat Tucker. I was getting confused. And then Simon Hill actually told me earlier on that PW is going to involve Tucker in next year's Super Varsity Cup.
Yes, he will be.
So yeah, look, I haven't watched any of that tournament. I don't really care too much for it, but I suppose equality versus schoolboys.
No, look, it's
varsity kids. Sorry.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a tournament that works. I thought it was another success this year, for those, for those that like it. I quite like the concept of the Varsity Cup. It's not exactly my cup of tea the way it's set out.
No.
But everyone's entitled to what they want.
It's because
it's hardly perversion of the IPL. Put it that way.
It's because we're old, Sean.
It is because we're old.
I keep actually forgetting you're younger than me, so I should be.
We're born in the same year, I think. We were both 1981.
Oh, I thought you were younger than me.
The flattery will get you.
It's amazing how we only get to know each other on air. That's quite worrying. Okay, next up, Yakutata looks to be out for the season. Alton Janchi's out for 3 weeks. And as they got injured in Stormers jersey, that means one thing: their knees. What is happening? What kind of training things happen with these guys that all the big knee injuries? Brian Abana, Hurdles van den Heever, all knee injuries. Skulk is initial injury before he got the meningitis.
Yeah.
All knees.
Emmett Smith as well, I think.
Ankle. He's got an ankle, but that's because his knee, I don't know.
It was from the turf at in the warm-up game that he braced himself.
I got the exact same injury at the Cape Town Tens.
You and Eben, that's the only thing you guys
happened in the same week. It was the same kilometer radius. I put myself down in the same category.
Definitely not the same game.
So no, this poses an interesting question. Okay, Tout is on loan to the Stormers. If he's now out for the rest of the season, does he have to go back to Joburg?
Well, the thing is that of course these guys were on loan, and as the paperwork works, these guys should have been available for the relegation game. For the promotion relegation game. So
correct.
So as bad as the news is for the Stormers, just spare a thought for the Lions.
Well, spare a thought for the Lions. Okay. Get on to the next headline. That the Kings aren't crap. Now, how's this for a bad week for the Lions? Their overseas tour gets cancelled, presumably from lack of interest or something else. Like the Americans couldn't guarantee their best players. So the Lions are like, well, we're not going over this, which is bollocks.
I know.
But then as they get that setback, the Kings draw with the Brumbies. And now Talta and Janchi's on the injury list. Well, Janchi's will bounce back. But
he should be able to be back for it. Although it's just, look, there's going to be... That promotion relegation game last I saw is still scheduled for the playoffs. To take the same time as the playoffs.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is not going to be fun if some of these Lions players are involved in the playoffs.
They won't be. I don't know. Look, we'll get to the Stormers debacle a little later.
Yeah, that I'm not sure about. We'll get to that later. But saying that, it was just such a really horrid injury to see, and I really hated the way it was broadcast as well.
I thought his leg actually snapped.
Yeah, I mean,
because
we're all
it's
contorting in pain. I can hear him screaming in the background as well.
Yeah,
and I just saw replay after replay of it, and I still do it tomorrow. I just think some things we just. I've like shame the poor guy. I mean, often we all get upset when people get injured, and because we're selfish and we think about how long they're out, how they missed their playing opportunity, etc.
Yeah, but the guy was in pain, and to think that he also lacerated a nut. I think how many weeks ago?
That was in the opening week.
I went to the Stormers. I lacerated a testicle and then snapped my knee.
And then went back to the Lions. That'll be his memories of Cape Town.
Like I often tell Joburg, it's like moving to Cape Town isn't always the best bet. Okay, moving on to football. Okay, of course, we got Keegan from the Pundits coming in just after 10:30 to talk about football in great depth. But last night, Man City, they've essentially lost the league. They're not going to defend the league, but they got the bragging rights of beating Man United at Old Trafford last night, 2-1. Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game. Some really good finishing by City. You get the feeling of where was it for a lot of earlier in the season.
I just think it's a team that lacks cohesion, and in order to defend a championship like that, the focus has to be the whole time. That's one thing Alex Ferguson does have. Yeah,
and United have been particularly relentless this year. Yeah. It's very seldom that 2 years go by without United winning the title. Like the odd occasions where they don't win the title, United bounce back heavily. That's usually when their best seasons happen.
Exactly, and I'm not a fan of Man United. I support Arsenal because I'm pressed to support a team. Everyone has to have a football team in their life, but you just got to admire what these guys do year in, year out. The ultimate professional side, and even though they hate to have lost to City yesterday, means nothing. They're still going to win the league.
No, absolutely. No, it's 12 points now, and it's 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
I mean, Keegan will listen later. I mean, that's not happening.
No, I can't see it happening. And then in local cricket of the T20 variant, the Lions win the Ram Slam T20 final, beating the Titans.
Fully deserved, hey? They had a really good season, the Lions. How's this, hey? For Jeffrey Toyana's first season as a franchise coach, won the T20, the Ram Slam, thank you, ma'am, whatever the kids call it.
Ram Slam Challenge,
and
I think.
They were in the final of the 50 over stuff, the Momentum Cup.
The momentum one day.
That was rained out, but they probably would have won that at home. In
Yeah.
fairness, I think they were a better team than the Cobras in the 50 over stuff too, and second in the 4-day stuff.
Yeah,
so they were in the top 2 of all the formats. That's the first time a South African team has done that since 2008.
Which was the Cobras.
It was the Eagles, actually. They're in the days of the Gestetner Diamond Eagles.
Look at you, little cricket researcher.
Oh, I know all about the numbers.
But Sean, okay, yeah, like full credit to Jeffrey Torona, but I think a huge part of their success is young de Kock.
Quinton de Kock was fantastic yesterday as well.
Yeah.
There was an insanely good catch to do off Morne Morkel. A little inside edge that's always tough to take. And to pull that off in the final was great. And opening the batting and playing some great cricket shots.
And just batting with, like, no fear whatsoever, scoring runs and just being forceful. And I think, I read something on Stormers 24 this week about the Proteas need to commit to de Kock. And it's actually so true. You've got to put that guy in there, thrust de Kock up the top. And he'll only, I think, over time do really well. And that time could be like 3-4 games. I know he wasn't that flash against the Kiwis, but I think he definitely needs more of a chance.
Yeah, it's often hard with the wicket keepers with selection-wise. I mean, down the years, we haven't had this issue with Mark, a few years back, Mark Bouch was so obvious that he was going to be in both formats, and maybe A.B. de Villiers in the wings or not, but we would decide that later. That was kind of our policy for like 4 years, 5 years, So now it's always hard how to blood in a keeper, and especially now with the A.B. de Villiers captain issue. How do we squeeze him? Do we just play him a few games as a batsman? Young de Kock as a batsman?
I think we should actually play him as a batsman.
I think so too. I'm leaning towards that.
Exactly, and I think that sort of confidence, give him a role and say, okay, right, you're going to be that tearaway opening batsman. Richard Levy did not fulfill that role. He suddenly lost the ability to play spin or whatever he did, and just say that's your role. We might need you as a keeper going forward, but that is your role for this time being. Go with it.
Well, also the role of the kind of fast pinch hitting-ish opener, call it what you will, is very, very dependent on your form.
Yeah.
You don't have time to play yourself in if that is your role to get going. So you have like Richard Levy, who gets a big score in New Zealand and can carry it on for a bit, but then loses the form, and especially like when you go to slower wickets. You see him scratch around on form. It's just not fulfilling the role whatsoever.
It's terrible.
So it's a role to take. So if a guy is making runs, he's in that role. If he's possibly finding a bit of form, you need to be a bit more circumspect about it.
That's very insightful, Sean. I never thought of that. Well, that kind of draws close to our headlines. We do have other things to talk about, of course, but we're going to put them into the headline, to the discussion pieces with our experts. We're changing the show up just a little bit. As you know, this is our 8th show together, I think.
I think this is number 8, yeah.
Yes, this is number 8. So we've had a basic formula where we read tweets that we thought were funny, but we've come to realize that they sound more like inside jokes. So we've scrapped that. If some tweets do pop up, we will let you know. But then we were giving way too much time to Derek Campese in doing so. So I took the executive decision while Sean was away. We're going to scrap that. As far as blog posts come up as well, if really great ones are there, we'll draw upon them. But what we want to bring in, the really interesting people who have the insights that we like on the internet sort of space. So we're going to do more of that going forward. So I think the show will be slightly looser, but then again, it'll be a lot more entertaining. So with that, we're going to get back to mid-tempo Tuesday tunes, and when we come back, we're going to talk about rugby with Sean, because Sean's kind of our rugby expert on the show now. Basement Jacks now with my turn. To BLOGZ on Balls, right here on Balls. Join us back on BLOGZ on Balls. A little bit of Basement Jacks there for mid-tempo Tuesday tunes. Sean, how's the theme going for you today?
It's working for me.
I'm not entirely sure where I found it. I got a whole bunch of tracks. I was going to go with 80s, but then I realized I'm actually not the biggest fan of 80s music. You go to one too many parties, you hear one too many 80s tracks, and before you know it, you actually just can't stand Come On Arlene anymore.
Yeah. No, I like this vibe today. It has the gentle soothe about it. It's got a very Masters vibe about it. I like it.
Masters vibe, yet electronic-ish. So last year on The Bounce, I'm going to go for a bit of a self-plug here for the next sort of minute or two before we get into rugby. We were involved with the Sports Illustrated New Model Search. Now, as you know, the Sports Illustrated magazine was dissolved this year. They didn't renew the license, etc., etc. Anyway, Netsport, who were in charge of the actual swimsuit version of that magazine, they are now teaming up with SA Rugby and SA Cricket, and they have got the SA Swimsuit magazine. Almost feel like a round of applause is into title for that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they the girls who enter, they need to get a whole bunch of votes. They need to get certain stars, so it's like model star, photograph star, videographer star, crowd favorite. There's a whole bunch of things. Anyway, so there's a blog award star, and they've approached me to issue this blog award star. Hurrah! So what that means is that every week on a Tuesday, there's going to be 2 girls on the bounce.co.za. Now, today there are 2 fantastic ladies named Athena and Charlotte. So if you go to the bounce.co.za right now, you can vote for either Athena or Charlotte, 2 very, very pretty girls. I have not met them, so I cannot tell you any more about them, other than the fact that, well, they both have 2 pictures up, and you can vote for them. And on Friday, the girl with the most votes gets the blog star for the SA swimsuit competition.
So straight shootout, one versus the other.
Straight shootout. There's always going to be a competitive angle on the bounce, Sean. I can't just be known as an admirer of ladies. There has to be a game.
Site, so,
Yeah, and it's interactive. I'm trying to make it interactive. So go onto the bounce.co.za and vote for your Lady of the Week. I've got to come up with a better name than Lady of the Week.
Yeah, maybe.
Come back to that.
We'll work on that.
So, Sean, as always, you write your brilliant post, what we can learn from the week of rugby that's just been. Week 8, a whole bunch of lessons. Do you want to take it away from the top?
Well, I usually put 5 on little points just for us to think about in the week and what we got from it. The first point is just how good were the Kings?
Yeah.
And just how incredible that was.
I've taken so much flack, and I deserve it, and I'll take it. But I still can't quite work out how a team can be so composed, so passionate, and so committed when it's their first time in this level. They don't have the big stars, but that forward pack, wow, they were killing it.
35% possession they had, I heard, and still managed to draw that game, which is just insane. Away at Canberra, you look at them, and you all follow the script. You see guys aligned nicely in defence, and you think, great, it's organised, they're tackling for each other. There's no ways this can last for 80 minutes. That's what you always think with that kind of approach to a game. Well, it doesn't
for the Springboks. It didn't for the Stormers. So you think it's not going to work for the Kings.
But these guys keep it together and hold their shape all the time and just make their tackles relentlessly.
Yeah. But just on your 35% possession point, 35% possession, and they scored 4 tries to the Brumbies 2. And that is telling. So that's
it's very telling.
Take the opportunities while you get them.
Exactly. The first was very early on. Well, when I say early on, just early when they got possession.
Yeah.
Like the first 50 minutes, they were struggling to hold on to the ball. They managed to get some close contact phases, then went over for the try, which changed things a bit. The second thing was from a line-out, pushed over. The one was a great turnover situation from that wonderful player, Sergio Peterson.
Yeah. I was so excited to see how his career progresses.
Oh, he's a very exciting prospect. You can't, the numbers around him just never fail to astound. Matric last year, I think he ran the 100 in a 10. I think he's got a 10.4 that he boasts or something stupid for the 100-meter sprints.
I would not be surprised.
And he's really not just a winger that they pick just for his pace. You can see him read the play nicely, really courageous tackler, and covers well.
It's the courage, It's that whole determined, courageous.
No. So now we've got a situation now where who would have guessed this? So the Kings beat the Force. They've drawn in Canberra, and they've got the Rebels next week in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Which you could probably pick them as favourites for that one, maybe.
I don't see how we can't.
And then they have the Waratahs, and later on they have the Waratahs at home in PE, which I think is a decent bet for them to take it. Now that will be the Kings unbeaten against every single Australian side this year. Everyone that they played. Well, they don't play the Reds.
They don't play the Reds.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. At the beginning of the season, I thought, sorry we've cocked this up. Poor Lions. Let's hope they get back in. But you know what? I'm actually so impartial now. Even though I'm a Joburg resident and this place is like home to me, despite growing up in Cape Town. It is just so great to see progress coming from underdogs. And I think I may be a sporting romantic in that sense. So I'm all behind the Kings and their progress. And if the Lions want to take them out, well, they've got to do a hell of a lot in order to do it.
Well, it's just done so much. It's unearthed new gems, new great players, And some of the guys, even on Saturday, were being rested. I mean, like most of the stars of the tournament previously for the Kings were on the bench.
Yeah.
Dimitri Kachakilis, Jacques Engelbrecht was a great player. Sean Fenter, their scrum half. So it was a real squad effort, this. They probably identified the Rebels to be the one that they would really push on for the victory.
Yeah.
And anything they'd get from Canberra is a bonus. And
3 points from Canberra.
It's brilliant.
Cool. Well, moving on from there, because I think we've all spoken about the Kings at great length this last week, and rightly so. They deserve all the credit they're getting at the moment.
Yeah, so moving on from there, the next point would be the Cheetahs. After the Cheetahs win against the Stormers, it's their 5th of the tournament. Puts them in 6th place, coming up to halfway through. Tour done. I think, the point I was making about them, I think that the rest of the country outside of Bloemfontein should stop patronising them.
Very good point.
Because most of the time, it's everyone's second favourite team, and a lot of that is for the style of play that they have, but a lot of that is for the lack of threat on a trophy-winning count that Bulls fans and Sharks fans and Province Stormers fans feel about them. This is a good team, and they could beat a lot of people this year. Usually their problem, it was a few question marks on their tour, with the schedule, they got hammered by the Chiefs. And then managed to get the 3 in a row against the Waratahs, the Rebels, and the Highlanders. Looking at those fixtures, I mean, those are 3 guys that probably aren't going to be competitive for the playoffs this year. So I think, yes, it was a fabulous achievement to win 3 in a row. But this team, that type of thing should be expected. I think it was, a lot of people will say otherwise. I think it was a big test playing the Stormers in Bloemfontein. And they went through it. And a lot of times in this tournament, there's, in history, the Cheetahs blow a couple of big games at home. Those games that they really should have won.
Yeah, well, they do it every year, exactly.
And so if they can show a bit of steeliness at home, like they show, like pulling a game out of the fire, like they did last week, there is no reason to think that these guys aren't playoff contenders.
Yeah, I agree.
So instead of the kind of love like, the Cheetahs are doing well considering, and statements like, well, it's not always just about winning, it's about the style of play with them. Stuff that. These guys are ambitious.
People say the exact same about our radio show, Sean. They go, despite the fact that both you're amateurs and you're just talking bollocks and you've got some other tunes, you're doing all right.
No, the Cheetahs are good. It's going to be a seriously well, I hope that the Stormers can bring it back. And we could have a really congested conference this year. Well, the Cheetahs being incredible.
We'll get to that in the second hour of the show. What's your next one there, Sean?
It was going to be the Stormers coming up.
All right. Carry on.
I think the idea of the Stormers, we all excused them a bit. We knew that we thought they'd all be trophy contenders, and we said, but their start will be hard. They'll need to overcome the start.
Yeah. Bulls
away, Sharks away, Chiefs, Brumbies, hard fixtures. There'll probably be a couple of losses. And now with the Cheetahs at home, they could probably get away with 1 or 2 losses, but it's been 4 now.
It's been 4.
And there's a lot of the season left.
So now it puts you into that mathematical chance category, which they were for most of their sort of their life as the Stormers franchise.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
saddens me to no end.
It's how I remember so much of Stormers support, like kind of in the Quibus van der Merwe years. Halfway through the tournament, you're looking at other people's results, seeing how you can climb up the table.
If these guys could score 3 more tries in the last 2 minutes.
Exactly. And you're just praying for the bonus point, all that nonsense,
Yeah.
Well, it'll be fun. Be nostalgic for Stormers fans in a sense.
Sean, you know what? Okay, and this is a topic that I want to bring up with you at some stage, I think in a couple of weeks. This could be the best thing for the Stormers ever, right? They're defense-based. Now they're forced to attack. This could be that watershed moment in their franchise right now where they have to throw caution to the wind and they might just realize they're actually a good attacking side. Whenever you see them with ball in hand, they're a good side. And I'll always say that, whether I'm from the Stormers country or not, when they have ball in hand, they're very, very dangerous. And just look at that Brumbies game if you think I'm talking out my bottom.
Absolutely. No, looking at this, okay, like if they don't win on Saturday against the Sharks, then winning the conference is like pretty much totally out.
Yeah.
If they win on Saturday, remote, but maybe on the cards. But either way, the playoffs is definitely on.
Yeah.
So, but they're going to have to change things. I mean, and they're going to have to attack, and they're going to have to play like they've got less to lose.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to.
And I agree with you. I do think that could be the making of them. It's just let the boys play, as they say sometimes.
Let the boys play, Sean. Spot on. Speaking of letting the boys play, you can also watch the boys play. I'm running a competition this week. Thanks to DHL, we've got 5 double tickets to give away to the Stormers versus Sharks game this Saturday. If you do want to go to the match, we've got 5 double tickets, as I said. All you need to do is just tweet me at @followthebounce and tell me what the DHL Stormers are going to need in order to win against the Sharks this weekend. I've had some very funny tweets coming through already. I'm going to read some of them out later in the show. So all you need to do is just tweet at @followthebounce with the hashtag of DHL Stormers, telling me what you think the Stormers need to beat the Sharks this weekend, and you could have a double ticket. So you could take your girlfriend, your mom, your school teacher, whoever you want to take. We've got 5 double tickets to give away.
It's a fabulous price. It's always a really fabulous occasion, the Sharks.
Yeah, for me, I know the traditional derby is the Bulls, but for me, Sharks Stormers is the ultimate game in SA.
I think the modern one,
yeah.
I think the Sharks have developed such a modern derby, so it's kind of like
new
traditions versus old ones.
Yeah.
It's always a special fixture.
Okay. Well, yeah, more about that towards the end of the show. But Sean, carry on there. And we've got Keegan coming up in about 8 minutes.
Yeah. The next point coming up would be the Sharks. I think we're all really impressed with the way the Sharks finished it off on approach, especially the second half against the Crusaders. Really good, gritty fight back against the team they really don't win against often.
And you can see they're not firing at the moment, but in order to grind out a win like they did, I think it shows a lot of character. And again, title contenders.
Yeah, that's the thing. There they are. Yeah. There they are, sitting top of the conference, 4 points off the Chiefs and 4 points behind the Brumbies. But of course, that's skewed because the Australians have played an extra fixture,
and they play the Rebels twice.
all that nonsense. But they are the Sharks looking at, and we see them and going, you guys aren't firing on all cylinders. But apart from the Brumbies glitch, they really are in a strong position with a strong squad. And I think they are in a real position to kick on. Their problem last year was that they peaked too late and left themselves far too much to do.
Exactly.
Like we've said previously before, I don't think you can win this tournament if you finish 6th or 5th.
A bit like Casa Semenya in the Olympics.
Ooh. That's the only similarity. That
was spot on, Sean.
It was spot on.
She left it too late.
No, she did. It was quite harsh to get disappointed at Casa Semenya for the run, but yes, absolutely. No, but they did leave it. They left it too late. I mean, it's not that people try to leave it too late. It's not like people try to not peak at the beginning. If you know what, it's always a hard thing when you. I always think people always say, "Oh, they're peaking too soon."
Yeah.
But how do you do that intentionally?
Well, exactly.
I know you got to maintain your physical condition and plan your squad accordingly.
Let's lose this game by 4.
But it's just hard to make sure that we are operating at 70% against these guys, to make sure that we're at 100% later. So it's a hard thing to manage. So it's not like, well, to be planned. But the idea being there's plenty of room for improvement. And even though that there's room for improvement, these guys are still winning big games.
Yep, exactly. And getting log points, that's the thing. They're at the top of the log, and they might be playing pretty regularly right now, and there's always the worry about tries, but they're up there.
Yeah, and they still have a tour to come, and their tour is not that easy. It's away to the Chiefs, which is probably the hardest fixture of the tournament, and away to the Reds. It's always tricky in Brisbane.
Yeah, but with Bismarck coming back, that back line getting more cohesion, I think that tight 5 also, it's growing with each performance.
Yeah, and some young guys as well. I mean, Steph Toy, that kid had a great game.
Yeah.
He was my man of the match. I was surprised that Kyle Cooper got the man of the match. There's some really dodgy man of the match awards going on at the moment in the local games. Lots I can't agree with. But hey, that was another young kid that had a big game.
Yeah, he's a native of the Riebeek Valley down in the Cape.
Yeah.
Not from KZN.
And so the last point I want to bring up quickly, there was an incident on the weekend in the Blues Highlanders game with Steve Walsh was refereeing. Now, we've talked a lot about referees in the last couple of weeks, but hey, they just draw so much attention to themselves.
Yeah,
there was a really bad late tackle from Ma Nonu, one of those no arms deals off the ball.
All right, yeah.
He initially gave it a penalty, but thought on an initial looking that there's no need to go upstairs. It won't be a yellow card. I'm satisfied with just a penalty. Let's go. Then he saw it on the big screen, and it went, actually, that's a lot worse than I look. And then he just gave him a yellow card on sight. The reasoning being was, since a TMO is available to him, he might as well use the same evidence the TMO has and just make the decision himself. Which just makes me wonder, if we're okay with the scenario happening, why do we have TMOs at all?
Exactly.
It just clunks up the whole process.
There are so many great areas coming into this.
If the stadium's got a decent screen and the referee can make the on-field referee can make a decision looking at it, obviously we don't want him to do it all the time because you have a problem with it being too stop-start. But why have that? And it's such clunky dialogue that always seems to happen between the referee and the TMO. It's become
like a bad soap opera. You're so right. Clunky dialogue indeed. Can you imagine Steve Walsh in one of those like Mexican soap opera things? He comes in as the foreign love interest.
He strikes me as the kind of man that's probably woken up in Mexican bar and occasionally as well.
And also auditioned for such parts. Yeah. Sean, does that wrap it up for the weekend?
They'll wrap up my...
Okay, we're going to get into the fixtures that we got coming up this weekend. Have you seen the fixtures list so far this weekend?
Yes, I have. I've got them in front of me.
Have you noticed how on Saturday you can literally, I think, drink for like 14 consecutive hours because the games are as such. This like starts. Yeah, we're going to get into that later in the show because there's a game in Perth and then there's an early game in SA. You can literally stay at the bar from like 6 in the morning onwards.
That's a lovely part. It's these Perth kickoffs, and the clocks have moved back or forward, whatever. So now what these kickoffs were 8:35 in New Zealand, now they're 9:35, and the 10:40s turned to 11:40. Then a force came after this, because that's the beauty. Because the problem is often when there's not a Perth kickoff for those that do plan to watch all day.
Consistently,
the problem was between the Australian game and the first African kickoff.
It's like a Bermuda social triangle. Just to feel
that's where you actually have to make conversation with people.
Okay, well, that's if you want to read more of Sean's article that we just spoke about now, his site's under development, so you can read that post on thebounce.co.za. Sean's writing is very good. He's got a fantastic way with words, so you can get more of his work there. And of course, don't forget to follow him at @simplySean_ on the Twitter. Sean, we're going to come back with Keegan. We've got Keegan from thepundits.co.za. He is our football expert. But first, we got a little bit of Cascade for mid-tempo tunes Tuesday. It's you, it's me. It's BLOGZ on Balls. Welcome back to BLOGZ on Balls here on Balls Visual Radio, balls.co.za. Thanks for listening. We are going to our football section of the show today, running slightly late. We have Keegan Kruger from thepundits.co.za. Keegan, you with us? Hello, Keegan. We seem to be having some Skype issues at this moment. So while we work on these Skype issues we've got, Keegan doesn't appear to be online with us right now. Did you see that that ref getting attacked by the Vuvuzela over the weekend?
I did. The guy, it was. It's such a strange. It's the best thing to look at when that happens is when you see photos of it. Look at the players around, seeing what is happening. All of them just in total disbelief because it's just such a surreal. I mean, the Vuvuzela is quite a.
Well, it's a weapon.
When used like that, it definitely can be. But it seems such a silly object to go and attack someone with.
Well, it's a very annoying object. Now, I would imagine it's very annoying when you're getting it around the ear as well. But then the security came on, and they sorted that guard quick and proper, huh?
Yeah, no, it was all done pretty quick. And not the first time it was used in the AFCON. There was some guys. I think it was an Ethiopian game. I think there was. I think it was Zambia, Ethiopia. If that was a fixture, Keegan can correct me later. But Zambia scored, and celebrated in a kind of corner flag dance, which is kind of in vogue, especially amongst like African football teams. And the crowd just pelted vuvuzelas at them, just to show them disgust. Well, I mean, we laugh about it. I mean, that's a really horrid thing to do, and the players don't know exactly what's coming out of them. They just see projectiles in the distance and come.
Yeah, well, I think the moral of the story is they make vuvuzelas more expensive, and people won't be parting with them so quickly. Keegan, are you there with us, Keegan?
Hello.
Oh, brilliant.
How's it going?
All with a magic touch. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
There's always a couple of knobs on this thing, and we don't quite get it right. Most of the time, it's just me. So, Keegan, how's it going? Big week of football ahead?
All good, yeah. Been quite busy in the football world. Champions League, back again. We've had Premier Leagues hotting up quite nicely, so yeah, quite busy.
Okay, so just starting the Premier League. Last night, Man City beating Man United was quite the result, but as Sean and I were saying, doesn't really have any bearing on the actual thing of titles.
No, not really. I think it's the gap's still at 12 points, which is quite a bit for City still to do, even though they probably got the easier run in.
Yeah.
But they're facing two sides which are in the relegation battle, and sides like that, they'll always scrap for anything. So I can expect a shock result here or there. Other than that, I think most of the action's all at the bottom part of the table.
Yeah.
And around fourth place as well, surely, Keegan. One thing that happened on the weekend is that fourth just got more congested in that last Champions League spot.
I think so. Yes and no. I don't know. I just have something. I would love to see Spurs make top four. I would really love to see that, but they're just doing the typical Spurs thing by just falling apart when it comes to the business end.
It's the pressure put on by the Gunners.
Well, that's what most say, yeah. I actually see Arsenal and Chelsea still keeping that third and fourth spot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, we get to it now. Now it's come to the stage. I mean, it was looking slimmer and slimmer, like maybe a month, like 6 weeks ago, of kind of Arsenal sneaking in here. But now here they are, 2 points behind, one game in hand, and they got Norwich at home this weekend, I think.
Yep, they've got the Gunners have Norwich at home, correct, and then Spurs aren't playing this weekend. You've got Everton still hanging there and thereabout. We've got I would say they're in the prime spot, to be honest with you. The Gunners, they really are. Chelsea obviously play over the weekend, but they have a FA Cup game against Man City, so that should be an interesting one. See what Benitez can come up with there. But I would say most of the focus of this week will be on those relegation sides. We've got Sunderland, which is in huge trouble, sacking their coach, and now getting Paulo Di Canio in. And to be honest with you, I don't know what he's done to actually deserve his job in the Premiership. But it's a big weekend. It
was a real jump up for Paulo Di Canio. He started a couple of years ago in Swindon.
I think the best he's done is get a Johnston Paint Trophy Cup final.
Yeah, that's right. He got them promoted from League 2 to League 1 through the playoffs, and he's got them in League 1. That's the third tier. These listeners that are not quite sure how the lower divisions work, and they're in the playoffs. But now that jump from League 1 playoffs to the Premier League is a gamble of note, surely.
Yeah, well, it's like coaching, let's just say, a club rugby side, like Villagers, and going to go and coach Super Rugby.
But guys, just want to come in here. How hated are you if you get sacked at the final stretch of the season? Like, how terrible must you be that you eventually everyone just goes, okay, we're about to get relegated. We're going to toss you early.
Do you know what? I actually think a lot of the times the clubs, it's more of a mistake than anything else. Because if you look back in history, how many clubs have actually survived by getting a new manager in 7 games in the run? Very few have done it, and it's normally the guys that stick with that manager right to the end that usually get something done. If you take Wigan for example with Martinez, I mean, the man has been in this relegation battle for the past 4 seasons with them, and he just somehow gets it right towards the end of the season. It's absolutely amazing.
And he's got a chairman that backs him. I mean, Wigan are always in the bottom 3, it seems, come like March, April, and managed to get out of it through a chairman that's calm and sticks with his coach.
But guys, do you not see a bit of a specialty role coming in here? You think national coaches all around the world, right? They have these lean periods. Do you not think Gordon Iggesson should be picked up for a 7-week contract? Go in there with this whole like demolition job. Okay, Gordon, we need 3 wins, and we only got you for 7 weeks. See what you can do.
Yeah, why don't you just be this kind of pro rata relegation battling coach?
The pinch hitter, the finisher.
Yeah.
That's what Harry Redknapp's become these days.
So Keegan, Premiership aside, obviously Champions League back in the mix this week.
Champions League's back in the mix. Yeah, we've got Dortmund and Malaga, which the first tie ended 0-0 in Spain. To be honest with you, I don't see Malaga coming out of that one. I think Dortmund will be too strong in their home ground. They probably should have scored 2 or 3 goals away in Spain, but they've done enough to always just keep themselves in the tie away from home. If they've come from behind or if they've just kept it tight, so I see the German side going through there. As I said weeks before, the Madrid Galatasaray one would be done and dusted after the first tie.
Yeah, sadly, as you said, if it was actually held in Turkey first up, it could have been quite interesting, but not to
3 goals, I don't see that happening. I don't see Galatasaray scoring 4 and probably keeping a clean sheet. And then we've got on Wednesday or tomorrow, we've got the 2 big ones. I mean, we've got Barca against PSG.
Well, that was an interesting first leg. That I watched the sort of first half, and I just thought, okay, PSG is just going to get rolled here. It won't be that pretty. A couple of goals by Messi will be all over, and very much not the case.
Very much not the case. They I think they sort of switched on in that second half, and they kept fighting and believing, and they come up. It was quite a surprising result, I think, for everyone. I think we all expected Barca just to sort of steamroll 3-1, pretty easy, and then go to France and just come home and then just score a goal, and they can basically sit back and take it from there. But that tie is very much still open. No Messi, of course, he is injured, so that could be interesting. And we've got Bayern Munich, which I expected to have too much for Juventus at home, but now it's the return fixture in Italy.
But that was a real shock, though, Keegan. I mean, there was talk about the Juventus getting the team selections wrong, but to go 3-0 down, it was 3-0, huh?
It's 2 as far as I know.
Oh, sorry, it was 2. I must have mentioned the third goal. But I mean, it started so badly for them. That deflection in the first minutes, going 1-0 down, and they just threw up against it completely.
Yeah, it's I guess that's how football goes. I mean, if you look at last night's game of the Manchester derby, the first 2 goals were probably deflections as well. Right. Sort of an own goal and another one deflection coming in. So that's what happens. Unfortunately, it's part of the game, and you sometimes just have to pick yourself up. But Bayern's a very difficult side at home. Very difficult to break down. I don't think people realize what Arsenal actually did to beat them 2-0 away from home. Yeah. Was actually a massive, massive result for the club. Really, it was.
Yeah. So, those are the big 4 games, and of course, after that, there's the draw on Friday. But so basically, you can't see Juventus pulling it back. Dortmund are going to be too strong. Galatasaray haven't got a hope in hell, and Malaga, well, we're not going to do anything at home against Dortmund.
Funny enough, I think Juve will win at home, but I don't think it's going to be enough to knock Bayern out.
Well, it's just it's 2-0 and then they go into extra time, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not completely impossible.
Yeah. The score has to be identical for you to forced into penalties.
Remember,
thinking aloud here,
Bayern score one, and they've got the away goals.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing, that their
Different
score was
story.
But the whole thing is, Juventus is actually very underrated in an attacking sense. So it's not completely impossible to think they'll do that. But obviously, Bayern, they are a very organised side, and like you said, they just need that one away goal.
Bayern are also really driven from missing out so narrowly last year as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty painful to lose a final like that.
You can almost
But,
see it etched on Bastian Schweinsteiger's face still.
Yeah, I seem to remember history-wise. I think they won it in 2001 or 2000, shortly after they got heartbroken by Man United in '99.
They've been heartbroken by quite a few people. I think they'll definitely come back. Well, they're angry.
Yeah, they're angry. I think
When you're angry in life, you get shit done.
there's some angry Germans out there, and that's never a good thing.
They're angry, and they know they've got Pep coming up next season. So I'm pretty sure that they're all fired up this year.
Absolutely. So 2 German, 2 Spanish. Is that what we're saying for the semi-finals?
That's what we're saying.
That's what I'm saying, and I think it's. And I'm gonna throw myself out on a limb here, but I'm gonna go say 2 German sides in the final.
Ooh, that is a spicy one.
Oh, interesting. Now, Keegan, I've been seeing quite a lot of noise about local football in the wrong sort of sense. Pirates being banned for not changing their kit. People attacking referees. What's happening at the moment in the local football? We were so positive 2 weeks ago talking about Ajax and all the good things, and now all this rubbish has come out.
Yeah, well, thank goodness that the rugby fans are keeping it at Newlands and haven't brought it to Cape Town Stadium yet, all the chaos. But yeah, it hasn't been a good week for, I guess, the PSL. It's just something that happens in South African football. They get irritated with the coach and they start throwing things at it, and it makes news as it should. But yeah, things haven't been well. The Pirates one is really silly. I will be honest, I don't know the full story behind it. I read bits and pieces about it, but it's quite a silly thing if you think about it. And being fined 50,000 or something like that is really a joke, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at the Vuvuzela, yeah, that's a interesting topic. I mean, it's gonna come to a stage where that's actually gonna hit someone, or someone's gonna get injured, and that object's gonna be removed from the stadiums completely.
Yeah. I mean, I call me a bit of a sensationalist, but it only matter of time until barbed wire goes around one of those things, or they start messing it up like Rocky. It was Rambo.
I totally agree with you. It's something that needs to be done. And funny enough, the security at the stadiums, need to probably be a bit more strict when it comes to things like that. But yeah, we'll see what the PSL is going to do about it. I don't expect much. But yeah, we'll take it from there.
Well, it'll be interesting. I've never been a fan of Vuvuzela. My OCD kicks in. They're not very good health-wise. If we get that taken away from sport, it'd be a bit nicer on the ears. But hey, that's local soccer for you, I suppose. Keegan, this week coming up, we've got FA Cup semis as well. And now this is a whole different sort of beast, because we've got 2 sort of minnows, and then we've got 2 top-flight teams, meaning there will be a sort of fairy tale story to the final. Is it scripted like that? I mean, how do these draws work? That either Millwall or Wigan, that's correct, huh?
That's correct.
How's one of those guys get into the final?
Luck of the draw.
Yeah.
It's really pretty much the luck of the draw.
TV ratings, more like.
Yeah, well, I can honestly say I don't think that game's going to get much on the TV rating side, but the other one's going to be an interesting one. City have had Chelsea's number lately.
Yeah.
So
No doubt buoyed by yesterday's result as well.
Definitely, and Chelsea still got to work to make sure that they get into that Champions League spot. So it'll be quite interesting to see what type of squad and side they throw out. But yeah, it will. That's going to be a big one. To be honest with you, that Wigan Millwall one, I think it can go really either way. To be honest with you, the way Wigan are playing, and I slightly think that City might pip Chelsea.
Yeah.
At the Bridge.
Keegan, one thing I read about Rafa Benitez at Chelsea, I mean, it's so often with English football, you got to resort to real tabloidy stories just to kind of be in the mix, and it's hard to differentiate which one's which sometimes. But I did read that Benitez, there's a feeling around that he's going to put more emphasis on the cup tournaments, knowing that he's not going to be in the picture at Chelsea next year because he's still just on an interim basis, of course. That he's got a real kind of focus of kind of getting the FA Cup, see if he can get the UEFA Europa League, and maybe even less emphasis on getting them in 4th place, as maybe a little like kind of gentle 2-finger salute. Not that. So, have you heard anything about that, or?
I've read certain rumors and reports about that. To be honest with you, if he wins another trophy, it's another it's another sort of gold star on his CV.
Yeah.
Because he's got another cup to his name. But I think to be honest with you, I think he's a professional guy. He'll try to do his best and try and get the club wherever he can. He has admitted and has said he's gone at the end of the season. So pretty much, I see him going full out for the FA Cup. You know, Chelsea's got a rich, sort of a rich history with the FA Cup, really doing well.
Yeah, good.
I think that's the one that he probably will want to win the most.
And a big modern history as well. Like they've won quite a few in the last.
I think I saw Ryan tweet earlier that if that's that Wallace, I think he was tweeting it could be 5 and 7 years for them.
That's a hell of a record.
It's quite amazing that.
Yeah, all right, King, we have to wrap it up there because it is Masters week. I am wearing a cardigan in studio, and that means I'm all business towards the golf. So we've got Barry from Golf Digest coming in. If you can just quickly wrap up where we can find you during the week. Obviously, you will be tweeting about some of these games and keeping everyone up to date with it.
Definitely, you can catch me on at Keegan Kruger, or you can follow the blog at the Pundits SA.
Mm-hmm.
The site is www.thepundits.co.za. And yeah, we'll be down at Cape Town Stadium tomorrow because Ajax take on Orlando Pirates.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the Pundits boys will be down there. So Froners and that Wallace will be down there as well. So yeah, if you're in the area, pull in. We'll definitely have a few beers before the game and probably after the game too.
And it's a cool game to watch, Cape Town. It was my first local match that I saw at the stadium was Orlando Pirates. And it was a really cool occasion. It's a fabulous stadium. And
yeah, it's a great stadium. And I do recommend having a couple of beers with the Pundits boys. I did experience their hospitality down in the Cape Town tent. Good bunch of guys. Check out their stuff. Keegan, thanks so much for joining us again. We will get you next week, and you can tell us all about the Champions League. Obviously, there's the draw coming this Friday for those semis. So let's see if your predictions hold up.
Awesome. Brilliant.
Chat to you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. Okay, so that's football out of the way, which leaves us an entire hour, Sean, to talk about golf. I'm obviously a lot more excited than you are. But anyway, to bring us to that, we now got Justice with New Jack. Taking on our mid-tempo Tuesday tunes. We got Barry from Golf Digest coming up after this. We also got Sport Billy joining in on the chat. Masters Week here on BLOGZ on Ball.